If I'm being really honest, I had very high expectations for the books I was reading this month, and I cannot believe it, but I think I might have had the best reading month I've had in a very, very long time. We've got a lot of 5 stars, and we've also discovered some great authors. So let's get straight into it. Hi, my name is Deb. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about all of the books that I read in January. So the first book I want to talk about is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I actually read her newest book first, called Five Survive, and really enjoyed that and thought I would finally give this book a chance. I've heard such great things about it, and now I know why. It is absolutely amazing. So this book is about Pip, and she is a schoolgirl in her last year of sixth form, so about to go to university, and she is trying to solve a murder case because she does not believe they have done a great job. So Andy Bell goes missing, and then it is thought that her boyfriend Sal Sin is the murderer. But Pip is not so sure. She does not believe that Sal had it in him to be a murderer, and she is determined to figure out who actually murdered Andy Bell. And what's really cool about this book is obviously Pip is an everyday girl. She's not a detective, she's not a police person, so she can't really get DNA, she can't get the hard cold evidence that police are more likely to get. But what she can do is very millennial. She can go online and she can try and piece together things from pictures and posts and, catfish people in some ways. Honestly, things that go on in this book is so interesting. The way it's laid out with case studies, interviews, she tries to actually be a detective, and you can really see her doing that in this book by the way some of the pages are laid out, as if she's trying to present the evidence of what she finds. And I also appreciated the diversity in this book. One of the main characters is called Ravi, and he is of the Asian community, and it was really nice also getting to see things from his perspective as a brown young man. And her stepdad is also African, so I do think Holly Jackson tried to put a lot of diversity in this book, and that didn't go amiss. I think that was really nice. There is also a dog in this book, and he is absolutely adorable. So I've not really read a dog in a book before, but I quite enjoyed that. And honestly, this book just has your mind spinning. You're really trying to figure out what happened. Is Sal the real murderer? If he isn't, then who is? And you are trying to get all of the clues that Pip is discovering and figure out the murder, and that was so much fun. I actually listened to the audiobook on Spotify at the same time as reading the text, and that is such a life hack. If you find yourself getting distracted or getting tired but you still want to read, then do that. It honestly changed the game. I loved doing that, but I think also the narrator was really good, so that helped. But 100% this is a 5-star, so gripping, so interesting, and actually it kind of reminded me of a what's it called? Pretty Little Liars, because Andy Bell is very, very similar to Ali or A in Pretty Little Liars. So if you watched that and you enjoyed all of the secrecy and the mystery, then you'll 100% enjoy this book. So the next book we are going to talk about is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And honestly, I think I might have found a new favourite author. I've only read 2 of her books, but so far both of them have been 5 stars, and I'm not surprised that they are so popular online because they are both amazing. One thing I loved about Daisy Jones and the Six was listening to the audiobook and how every character had their own voice. It really made it feel like a real life band. And once again, I don't know how she does this, but she has made Evelyn feel like a real life superstar, a real life movie star. and again I listened to the audiobook and I would recommend anyone to do the same. It was fantastic. So this book is about our main character. Well, there's two main characters. So there is Evelyn Hugo, who is a huge movie star, and there is also, trying to find her name, Monique. And Monique Grant has been given the task of interviewing Evelyn Hugo, and what she thinks is going to be, you know, just a simple interview turns into a lot more, and she finds out all of the details that everyone wants to know about Evelyn Hugo. And the biggest thing people want to know is, how on earth did she have 7 husbands? Now, there is a big theme in this book that I had no idea was going to come up or was even a thing. And I am so happy that was the case for me, because it made the experience of this book even better. I had no clue this was going to be something that happened, and I would really urge anyone who hasn't read this book to not look into it too much. Don't look it up on Goodreads or online. Let it be a surprise for you, because I think it would make the experience so much better. So for that reason, I don't want to talk about this book too much, because I do think if you haven't read it, it is going to be a really nice surprise finding out why she had so many husbands and what happened to all her husbands and their relationships. But just know, when you are reading this book, it feels like you are listening to a real life celebrity talking about their journey into fame and the dark side of fame as well, and the dark side of relationships, and how messy it can get, how the media can impact what people think of you, even though it might not be the truth. And yeah, it is just so well written, and I have not been able to stop thinking about Evelyn and her life, the same as Daisy Jones in The Six. It's just one of those books where the characters feel so real and so realistic. So 5-star once again, amazing read. So the next book I read, I think I'm actually going in the order I read them as well, which was not necessarily meant to happen, but it's quite cool. So the next book I read was Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, and oh my goodness, I had such high expectations about this book. Everyone was talking about how amazing the romance is in this book, and I think I was a little bit nervous to see if it would live up to the hype, but for me, it definitely has. This is a fantasy historical romance. It's quite different. It's definitely a good fantasy book for anyone who hasn't read fantasy before, because whilst there is a lot of fantastical elements to it, it's very digestible. It's more in the sense of legends, and yeah, the world isn't too complex. So I would definitely say, if you want to dip your toe into romantasy, I would give you Divine Rivals as a book that I'd recommend. So this book is about our two main characters, Roman and Iris Winnow, and they are rivals. So they work in the same company and they are after the same promotion. However, the world they live in is quite complicated. They live in a world where there is currently a war going on between two gods, and unfortunately for Iris, her brother is fighting in this war and she really misses him. So she's got a typewriter and she decides she'll write to him, and her typewriter has some sort of magical element to it, because her letters somehow disappear, and unfortunately for her, or maybe fortunately, they end up in her rival's hands instead of her brother's. And the book kind of explores that relationship where she's writing to someone who she doesn't know is her rival, and things just start unraveling that really pull at your heartstrings. I don't want to spoil this book in any way, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but I will say, like everyone has said who has reviewed this book, the writing is just beautiful. The way they write their love letters to each other just makes you swoon. You are swooning, you are awing. It is so cute, it is so romantic. I actually gave this book a 4.5 stars originally because I just thought it was really great, but I needed a little bit more maybe from somewhere to get 5 stars. But then I could not stop thinking about Winnow, Roman, the world that they are in, and what on earth is going to happen next. This book ends on quite a big cliffhanger, and I just had to know how, like, what's going to happen to our characters. So for that reason, I bumped my score up to a 5 star. I could not stop thinking about it. I need to read Ruthless Vows now. I am desperate to find out where the story goes, and I would definitely say to anyone who is thinking about picking up this book, do it. It is really good. So next we have got A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas. This is a novella after the first 3 books in the AGGGGTM series, and this was probably the most disappointing read of the month. I think I gave this a 3 star. So, you know, it's still not terrible, but compared to her other books in the series, this was just a bit boring. Not much really happened. It's kind of about them celebrating this sort of Christmas winter, it's called the winter solstice. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's like a winter celebration, and it's kind of how they pick up after the war. And yeah, not much happens. I think if you're a die hard fan of the series and you just want to read about their everyday lives, then you will enjoy it. And I thought it was okay. There were some parts that you kind of get a sneak peek into what's about to happen in the next book, and those were the best parts of the book. But otherwise, it's just about them going shopping and I guess getting over the war, kind of. So meh. If I could go back, would I pick it up again? Probably not. But it did give me a little bit of gems to get me prepared for this big boy, A Court of Silver Flames. And to be honest, I want to say this is 2 books. It is so big. It is over 700 pages. However, it is another 5 star. Sarah J Maas really pulled it out of the bag with this book, especially after this. I was like, oh no, we are going downhill. But then she pulled this book out and we went straight back up the hill to a 5 star. So this book is about Nesta. She is Favour's sister, and she is known for being quite unlikable in the first few books, but you learn a lot about why she is the way she is in this book, especially the way she is after the war. She treats her family and friends terribly. However, she's going through a lot and she's got a lot of trauma, and that is really explored in this book. So there's a really heavy theme of mental health, and I think it's done really well. And another part of this book is the romance, and this probably is the steamiest book Sarah J Maas has written, or at least that I've read, in the whole of AGGGGTM. I know A Court of Mist and Fury was quite steamy, and so was Wings and Ruin, but this book, oh my goodness. Cassian and Nesta have got quite a high drive, so if you're not into reading a lot of smut, I would say you might not enjoy this too much. For me, I think I got a little bit like, alright, we get the point. However, it was still good. It was still enjoyable, but it was very repetitive. You were like, oh, again, and again, and really, again. But yeah, that is a big part of this book, and I think that can make the book either love it or hate it for some people. But I still loved the book, but I loved it the most because of the character development and just getting to know a character that's quite complex in how they are the way they are. And also you get to see things from other characters' perspectives. So you get Nesta and Cassian's perspective in this book. So they are kind of trying to recover from the war, help Nesta, and there's also some more things going on. Again, because it's part of a series, I don't want to go too much into what happens because it might give you a clue of what's happened before. so I won't go too much into it, but I will say that if you are in the ACCGGTM series right now and you're intimidated by this monster of a book, then don't be. It's very worth it, it's very interesting, and I think there's going to be some more books coming out in this series, and I really hope that's true, because the way this ends, again, there's so many unanswered questions, there's so many things that could happen, and I really want to know a little bit more about Elaine, Favourite's other sister. That doesn't get too much explanation in this book, so I think there's probably room for that in her next book. So those are all of the books I read in January. I read a total of 5 books and I gave 4 of them 5 stars. Is that right? Yeah, I gave 4 of them 5 stars and 1 of them 3 stars. And I think that's a pretty positive reading month. I really enjoyed myself this month. Next month I will hopefully read more than 5, but we'll see. February is shorter. But I do feel like because this was such a thick book, I basically read 6 books. Let's just say 6. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.